Chapter 721. Hi. Team Tiny Herb. Dao Zan's expression darkened. Just this name alone was enough for him to take things more seriously. Team Tiny Herb had a somewhat strong start, but weak finish in this past season. They were the Season 7 champions and entered the new season at a high. In the beginning, Team Tiny Herb didn't let down their fans and led the regular season in first place. Unfortunately, in the second half of the regular season, they were passed by Team Blue Rain and Team Samsara, ending the season with third place. A team's placing in the regular season didn't determine who would be the championship winners. Once a team reached the playoffs, no team would slack off. As the defending champions, many thought Team Tiny Herb's chances at winning were quite high, but although Team Tiny Herb smoothly entered the semi-finals, they ended up under Team Samsara's feet as their stepping stone. Team Samsara beating top teams like Team Tiny Herb and Team Blue Rain one after the other only made their championship victory that much more glorious. Tiny Herb. Who is this Qiao Yifan? Dao Zan turned to ask Xiao Shikan. That. Xiao Shikan felt a bit embarrassed. Qiao Yifan was truly too invisible. How could an outsider know such information on someone who had never played in an official match? Xiao Shikan could only say what he knew. He has never participated in an official match before, so there isn't much information on him. From what I know, he uses an assassin, but the only time he's ever appeared on stage was in the All-Star Rookie Challenge. However, at that time, he used a ghost blade. He challenged Li Zan and the outcome. The outcome was a tragic sight, but Xiao Shikan was kind person. Even though Qiao Yifan wasn't in front of him listening, he still tried to find the appropriate words to soften the harsh truth. Dao Zan had some impression of this year's All-Stars. It was a once-a-year event after all. That Ghostblade who lost to Li Zan? Dao Zan hadn't bothered to remember that kid's name because there was nothing noteworthy about that kid's performance. How many remember the loser? Xiao Shikan's words still let Dao Zan know that this Qiao Yifan's official class was an assassin, but in the Challenger League, he played a Ghostblade. Could he have been hiding his strength and simply playing in the Rookie Challenge for fun? Dao Zan started to become a bit uneasy. He paced about the room and even opened the door to look outside, but he didn't see Yi Chu's group returning. If they planned on welcoming Qiao Yifan here, they should have come up by now. The first floor wasn't that far away? It seems like they don't want us to see him? Let's go. As a result, Dao Zan quickly made his decision. Just like how they barged in, he decided to go down and see what they were up to. Ah, you're going to leave? You're not going to wait for my boss to come back? Are you sure you don't want any water? Little Li saw that the three were getting ready to leave, so he quickly called after them. No thanks. We have something we need to do, so we'll get going. Dao Zan didn't need to go so far as to take his anger out on an internet cafe employee. After politely responding, he and the other two left the practice room. When they exited the room, the three quickly put their sunglasses on and started walking quickly and carefully. It didn't matter much for Dao Zan, but Sun Xiang and Xiao Shikan were like sheep in a tiger's den coming to an internet cafe. If they didn't disguise themselves a bit, the fans would quickly nab them like wolves. Happy Internet Cafe. This is the right place. Qiao Yifan came directly to their door. Of course, he had told Yi Chu beforehand. If not, he wouldn't have known the internet cafe's location or name. After knowing that he wouldn't be staying with Team Tiny Herb and that he didn't have any offers from any other club teams, Qiao Yifan decided to seek shelter under Yi Chu's wing, who had been of great assistance to him. He would be fine even if Yi Chu only wanted him as an apprentice. Coming from a championship team, he had been quite proud in the beginning, but after a year, there wasn't much left of it. Yi Chu obviously didn't reject Qiao Yifan and also told him their plans for the future. After listening to it, Qiao Yifan happily accepted. He wanted to learn and improve, and it couldn't be any better if he could also have the chance at becoming a pro player again. While Qiao Yifan waited in front of the Happy Internet Cafe's reception desk, he was still feeling uneasy. However, he soon heard the employee go upstairs to send the message. A bunch of footsteps soon followed. It seemed like quite a few people were coming down. Is it them? Qiao Yifan thought to himself. His gaze had already shifted to look in that direction. He soon saw 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 people come over. Qiao Yifan recognized Yi Chu among them. Senior, Qiao Yifan immediately went up to meet them and gave a respectful greeting. Haha, not bad, little kid. You're very polite. One of them reached out his hands and gave his shoulders a heavy pat. This person was seemingly a middle-aged guy with a gruff face. Chow Yifan leapt up in fright. Did I get the wrong person? I don't think I did. Chow Yifan wasn't sure what to say when he heard the person who he thought was senior. He can be considered your senior too. Wei Chen. Have you heard of him? Chow Yifan had never heard of him. If he were a warlock player or someone from Team Blue Rain and understood the team's history, perhaps he would have heard of the name Wei Chen before, but his current knowledge was the same as Sun Zhang's. He didn't recognize this name at all. However, Sun Shang dared to say, "Who's that?" Chow Yifan didn't have that sort of arrogance and hastily said "Hi senior" to Wei Chen. Good, good. You've got a good future ahead of you, little kid. Wei Chen patted Chow Yifan again. He didn't seem to mind that Chow Yifan had no idea who he was. Steamed Bun, Soft Mist. You've played in the game together. Yi Shu introduced Steamed Bun and Tang Ru. Steamed Bun laughed loudly as his greeting. Tang Ru didn't lack manners and greeted him politely. She had a good impression of Chow Yifan. This is our boss. Yi Shu introduced Chen Guo last. Chen Guo was actually at a loss of what to do facing such a proper introduction. In the end, she treated him like they were family and said, "So you've arrived. I've already arranged living quarters for you. Later, Old Wei and Steamed Bun can bring you over." Thank you, Chow Yifan hastily replied. Just when they were getting acquainted with each other, noise could be heard from the stairs again. Dao Zan's group grew impatient from waiting and went downstairs. The three wore big sunglasses as if they were from the Matrix. Even though everyone recognized the famous pro players, they mostly saw them on the screen, so it wasn't as easy to identify them in real life. Thus, sunglasses were usually good enough as a disguise. However, Chow Yifan was different. Although he might be just a water dispenser, he still went around with the team everywhere and would encounter anyone Team Tiny Herb encountered. These three walked directly towards their group, giving Chow Yifan plenty of time to recognize them. At first, he felt that these three faces looked quite familiar. At a second glance, he began to identify them. At a third glance, he cried out all of a sudden, "Senior Xiao Shiken? Senior Sun Shang? Hi!" Chow Yifan was so polite. Sun Shang had only registered a year before him and Chow Yifan already considered him a senior. After crying out their names, he walked forward weakly and greeted them. He may not have spoken very loudly, but he hadn't spoken very quietly either. Quite a few people nearby had heard it. Numerous customers lifted up their heads to check. Now that they were deliberately looking for these two pro players, the sunglass facade collapsed like paper. Sun Shang and Xiao Shiken were quickly recognized by Glory fans. Holy sh*t. It's Sun Shang. It's Xiao Shiqin, someone shouted loudly. Many had already leapt up from their chairs and dashed over. Such a large commotion immediately startled even more people. It was as if a brick had been thrown into a pond. Waves of people began crashing around inside the internet cafe. Not everyone at an internet cafe played Glory, and not everyone who played Glory was so passionate about chasing after stars. Happy Internet Cafe existed before Glory existed. When the Glory Alliance was established, it just happened to be located across the street from Club Excellent Era. Chen Guo paid a lot of attention in caring for Glory and Excellent Era fans. Happy Internet Cafe could be considered a gathering place for Excellent Era's fans. With Sun Shang and Xiao Shiken having been exposed, the passion from the surrounding fans was practically the same as when Excellent Era played in their home stadium. A huge number of customers left their seats and quickly walked over to watch. Not good. Dao Zan, Xiao Shiken, and Sun Shang weren't the only ones crying this out in their hearts. Yi Shu's group also felt the same. Fortunately, they were still at the front desk. The door was very close, so they rapidly scurried away. Dao Zan's group reacted too slowly. Then again, the fans weren't going to hurt them. If they ran away, it might hurt their feelings too much and result in a bad reaction. During their short moment of hesitation, the three were surrounded in an instant. Not long afterwards, a pair of sunglasses flew off and was kicked around by the crowd. One of the lenses even fell off. In the end, it was thrown at Yishu's feet. What a pity. Tang Ru picked up the sunglasses, they're Ray-Bans too. They're ruined now. It's okay if the sunglasses are ruined. They're not going to get ruined, right? Steamed Bun asked. Should we go over to Club Excellent Era and call their security over? Yishu wondered. Chow Yifan was nervous. He felt like he had invited disaster onto them. I knew you had a bright future ahead of you, Wei Chen praised. It's such a mess. No one's going to try and use this chance to not pay their bill, right? Chen Guo was also worried. Chapter 722. Previously invisible. After the sunglasses flew out, one person frantically struggled out of the crowd. His clothes were crooked now and his hair had become disheveled. Once he stumbled his way through, he got up and heard a concerned voice from in front of him. Boss Zan, you okay? Dao Zan looked up. The person asking was his competitor, Happy Internet Cafe's owner and Yichu's supporter, Chen Guo. It was a pity that Chen Guo couldn't keep up her act. She wasn't a natural at taunting people like Yishu was. When she asked if he was alright, her eyebrows were raised in delight, letting Dao Zan know she wasn't really concerned about him, but rather laughing at him. Even though Dao Zan was the owner of Excellent Era and the senior, who provided the wages for his pro players, the fans didn't care much about him. After Sun Shang and Xiao Shiken were recognized, they were immediately swarmed. Dao Zan wasn't as well known, so despite wearing sunglasses as well, the fans took a few glances at him and acted like he didn't exist after determining that he wasn't a pro player. The two pro players were being asked left and right with requests for signatures and photos. As for Dao Zan, he had been squeezed out as if he were an obstacle. Dao Zan didn't have the physique fitting for a security guard. He couldn't protect those two. In the end, he was forced out like that pair of sunglasses. Dao Zan felt gloomy. The pro players receiving love and respect from their fans shouldn't be a bad thing, right? However, his opponents were laughing at them. Dao Zan really wanted to shout that Yi Chu was here too. He was certain that there would be a similar effect, but why should he split Excellent Era's fans? In truth, Dao Zan didn't want to regard Yi Chu as his opponent. He knew how much Excellent Era fans cared for Yi Chu. If the two became enemies, the fans would be split, so Yi Chu quietly retiring was for the best, but Yi Chu refused to go out quietly and started creating his own team. Dao Zan wanted to minimize the damage the other side could bring to Excellent Era. How could he push Yi Chu towards the fans? Dao Zan didn't bother arguing with them. With a dark expression on his face, he tidied up his clothing and ran back to the club. Not long afterwards, helpers arrived at Happy Internet Cafe. They weren't going to force the two away. It would be too disrespectful to the fans. The fans should at least surround the pro players in an orderly fashion though. What if an accident happened and the crowd started to run amok? When the helpers came, they brought a megaphone. After a few shouts, the crowd calmed down a bit and the scene gradually turned into a fan meet and greet for the pro players. Chen Guo walked over, laughing. Boss San, Happy Internet Cafe is my place. Don't you think you should be paying to host an event here? Is that so? It seems to me that bringing my pro players over here will help your business quite a bit. I think you should be the one paying me fees for their appearance, Dao Zan said. Did I ask for them to come over? Chen Guo asked back. Then if you don't want us to use your venue, then disperse the crowd, Dao Zan said. In truth, neither of them cared about paying fees. The two were simply venting their anger on each other. In any case, the one to lose out today was Dao Zan's side. What he just said wasn't false. Sun Shang and Xiao Shiken appearing at Happy Internet Cafe would certainly be a boon to Happy Internet Cafe's business. Ordinarily, with the status of these two pro players, Happy Internet Cafe didn't have enough influence to invite them over. In business, it wasn't all about earning profits from advertising fees. While celebrities made the advertised products more popular through their own fame, celebrities also relied on the product to make themselves more well known. Happy Internet Cafe wasn't a chain brand that everyone in the country recognized. Its fame couldn't compare to an all-star player. The two sides weren't on the same playing field. For today's events, if news spread, Excellent Era would explain it as the two pro players coming out for their own private matters and then inadvertently being recognized. If it became described as a business move, Happy Internet Cafe would profit greatly from it. It would lower the value of these two pro players as well. In any case, Happy Internet Cafe could only gain from this occurrence. When Chen Guo bickered with Dao Zan, she didn't care about who won or lost in the end. Yi Shu and Wei Chen chatted on the side, not caring about the situation. Tang Ru and Steamed Bun had joined the crowd. Chow Yifan was still terrified after letting a storm loose from a slip of the tongue. Excellent Era's helpers arrived and organized the crowd into a more orderly fashion. After the fans calmed down, they would try and get the pro players out. If not, once the news started to spread, more and more fans would show up. If things went badly, the media would even come over and so on. As a result, after satisfying all of the requests for signatures and pictures, the Excellent Era employees explained the situation to the fans, while slowly evacuating Sun Shang and Xiao Shikan. Although the fans were sad, the pro players had indeed stayed for some time, showing their sincerity and interacting with them. When Excellent Era's group left Happy Internet Cafe, they quickly escaped to Club Excellent Era. Dao Zan didn't come over and say a few departing words to them. That Chow Yifan left him an impression though. His senior Xiao Shikan, senior Sun Shang, had caused them quite the trouble. In addition, it even helped advertise for Happy Internet Cafe. That guy wasn't a good person. Dao Zan didn't think that he had been prompted to do so because it wasn't necessary. Those other 5 could have shouted their names at any time and caused them trouble, but they didn't do so. It was only that newcomer Chow Yifan who said their names when he saw them. His actions were too despicable and shameless. This person was still just a child too. They had to be wary of him. Dao Zan took his time to investigate his enemies. Chow Yifan had been noticed by him. While they were under pressure, that guy set off a calamity with a nervous appearance. His acting skills were truly superb. Chow Yifan, I'll remember you. After Dao Zan returned to the club, the first thing he did was make a phone call. Finding out information about a player, who was part of a team in the alliance, wasn't difficult at all. He directly called Team Tiny Herb's owner. As owners, their relationship with each other was very subtle. This type of situation was similar to the politics between in-game guilds. When they needed to fight, they would be at each other's throats. When they were sitting idle, they would chat with each other. Chow Yifan, Tiny Herb's owner, was very surprised at hearing Dao Zan ask for this name in particular. He knew this name because even though Chow Yifan was a nobody, deciding not to renew his contract required his approval. It had only been 3 or 4 days since, so he still hadn't forgotten about Chow Yifan. When he saw that Excellent Era's Dao Zan was personally calling to ask about him, he immediately began to wonder whether their team had let some sort of talent go. What was Team Excellent Era? Despite having been relegated, Team Excellent Era could still attract an all-star player like Xiao Shikan. They weren't some team that could be shopped around like a supermarket after being relegated. They didn't need some free agent player that had been abandoned by another team. Chow Yifan. That player. Tiny Herb's boss wanted to act as if he wasn't sure, but he discovered that he really didn't know much about this player. A few days ago, Tiny Herb's manager came over to talk about this matter a bit, but he hadn't cared too much. An unfamiliar player meant that the player wasn't very important one. As a result, he didn't ask too much about him. If every decision had to be personally made by the boss, the club wouldn't need so many different departments. It was just that when he heard Excellent Era's boss unexpectedly ask for this particular player, he started to have some thoughts. Boss Zan, I actually don't know much about this Chow Yifan. I'll go ask around, and when I find some more information on him, I'll tell you, Tiny Herb's boss finally replied. After hanging up the phone, Tiny Herb's boss immediately called Tiny Herb's manager. When the manager heard the question, he was also very surprised. His decision for Chow Yifan hadn't been made on the spur of the moment though. He had even asked for Captain Wang Jiaxi's opinion. For a championship team like Team Tiny Herb, a player like Chow Yifan wouldn't be of much use. Whether it was signing a stronger player or raising a new rookie, it would be more worth it than funneling resources into Chow Yifan. Since his boss was asking him, the manager didn't dare to delay and naturally informed of what he knew. He didn't forget to say that the decision hadn't been made solely by him. He had also asked for Wang Jiaxi's opinion. The team captain didn't have any decision-making authority, but his opinions were of great importance. When the manager made these kinds of decisions, he mostly did what the team captain recommended. In some sense, it was the team captain who decided whether a player should stay and whether the team needed a new player. Tiny Herb's manager shifted the responsibility to Wang Jiexi to explain to his boss. This was a decision that the team captain had proposed. This was a matter that he had talked about with the boss just a few days ago. After being suddenly asked to explain, the boss must have some doubts. The manager was certain. As he explained, he thought of what Qiao Yifan might have done to make the boss suddenly ask about him. No matter how hard Tiny Herb's manager tried, he wouldn't be able to think of Qiao Yifan seeing Sun Shang and Xiao Shiken and giving them a polite greeting. It was because of what that resulted in, which caused such a huge misunderstanding. Tiny Herb didn't have a clue about any of this. Dao Zan didn't know it was a misunderstanding. He thought that Qiao Yifan was a threat and immediately called Tiny Herb to ask, but in the eyes of Tiny Herb, a powerful owner like Dao Zan had personally come to ask about a nobody. Could they have made a mistake? Qiao Yifan. An hour earlier, Qiao Yifan had been a nobody, but because of this small accident, he had suddenly drawn the attention of two strong teams. If Qiao Yifan knew about it, he probably wouldn't know whether to laugh or cry. When all is said and done though, this mess stemmed from the pressure that Yi Shu had put on Excellent Era. Chapter 723. Upgrades in the later stages. At Excellent Era, Dao Zan pondered over the threat that Qiao Yifan posed. At Tiny Herb, because of Dao Zan's phone call, Tiny Herb's boss gave a call to Wang Jiexi after asking the manager. Wang Jiexi had gone home during the season's break. He was also very surprised to suddenly get a call from his boss, urgently asking about Qiao Yifan. After hearing Wang Jiexi's explanation for his decision, Tiny Herb's boss finally felt at ease. Wang Jiexi didn't deny Qiao Yifan's potential. It was more of an issue with how he fit into the team. Team Tiny Herb aimed for the championships. Every single player on the team needed to do their bit to reach this goal. However, it didn't require Qiao Yifan's addition. Team Tiny Herb didn't need someone who wouldn't make a difference whether he was there or not. It was impossible to say how much he would grow in the future, but Team Tiny Herb couldn't give him the necessary time to grow. Leaving him on the team wouldn't benefit either side. When their conversation ended, Tiny Herb's boss immediately called Dao Zan back, telling him that Qiao Yifan was not a bad player. Team Excellent Era should consider him. These were more or less just polite words. Usually, teams would say that about the players, who left the team, were very good, or very skilled. In return, the players would usually say that they felt it was too bad that they had to leave the team, but if that were the case, why did they even split in the first place? It indicated that despite being good players, there was an even better replacement or option. Just because the player felt regretful for leaving the team didn't mean that the player wouldn't feel regret for joining another. How could Dao Zan not hear the implications from these words? That was all Tiny Herb's boss said though. After all, they were still competitors. It wasn't like Tiny Herb's boss would be so devoted as to conduct thorough research on whether Excellent Era needed such a player. Thank you, Boss Yu. We should grab lunch sometime. After saying some polite words, Dao Zan hung up. The call hadn't given him as much information as he had wanted. He had already realized that he had been somewhat impulsive. If he really wanted to know information on a player, it would be more appropriate to have the other employees deal with it. A powerful owner like him ran over to ask Tiny Herb about a tossed-out player. It was as if he was picking up another person's trash. As for what exactly was up with Qiao Yifan, he would have his employees under him find other channels to find out. This was the decision that Dao Zan made in the end. At Happy Internet Cafe, Yi Shu wouldn't know that Qiao Yifan's words would cause such a ruckus between the owners of the two teams. Even after the crowd had been dispersed, Qiao Yifan was still somewhat in a panicked state. Then, he was dragged away for a welcoming dinner. Afterwards, he followed Wei Chen and steamed bun to his living place as if nothing unusual had happened today. The next morning, when everyone came together at the practice room, Yi Shu told Qiao Yifan the details of their team's situation, as well as their current work. Needing to face Excellent Era in the Challenger League didn't scare Qiao Yifan though because he already knew. He knew Yi Shu would be participating in the Challenger League. Excellent Era had been relegated too, so Qiao Yifan had already put two and two together long ago. I'll definitely try my best. Qiao Yifan had a cautious personality. He didn't say anything like, we must beat Excellent Era, he only dared to guarantee that he would do his best. Okay, as long as you understand. Let's start playing. Old Wei is currently a spy and is Samsara's second elite group leader, Yi Shu said. Wow, Chow Yifan gasped in astonishment. He obviously understood how guilds operated. The second elite group leader was certainly a core member position, no? It was extremely difficult for a spy to get to such a high position. Wei Chen wasn't about to explain that he was just being used for labor because of his skill. He waved his hands and said, "You flatter me. Little Chow, you'll mainly be playing with us. When you have nothing to do, you'll practice on your own. When I call for you, we'll gather together and snatch wild bosses," Yi Shu said. Understood. Soon afterwards, Yi Shu threw a bomb at Wei Chen. "Old Wei, when I was organizing our materials, I discovered that there are enough materials for you to upgrade your Death's Hand." "Is that so?" Wei Chen replied. He was somewhat puzzled for a moment. In today's game environment, creating a silver equipment on one's own was extremely difficult. Silver equipment required uncommon materials, but uncommon materials were monopolized by the club guilds. It had taken Wei Chen a year to upgrade Death's Hand to level 60. Who knew how many coincidences and lucky encounters he had been given in order to achieve that? After becoming one of the competitors for wild bosses and getting good results, they were able to gather enough materials to upgrade his silver weapon in just a few days. "Are you sure there aren't any issues with your blueprint to upgrade it to level 65? Yi Shu asked. "I can't guarantee it. For someone as shameless as Wei Chen to hesitate, it could be seen just how difficult of a step this was. Not having an accurate blueprint was the main reason for the waste of materials. During the process of adjusting the blueprint, batch after batch of uncommon materials would be used. It was a bottomless pit. I looked over your blueprint and it didn't seem like there were any big issues," Yi Shu said. The value of a talent in this area could be seen here. A talent would be able to ascertain an accurate and reliable blueprint with minimal experimentation by relying on his or her own experience and understanding of the game. In comparison to someone who didn't have a clue, how many materials would be wasted by preying on luck alone? No matter how much money or materials you had, it wouldn't be enough. "I also can't find anything wrong with it," Wei Chen said. He had been by himself before and didn't have the resources to afford such a loss, so who knew how many he had gone over the blueprint? He wouldn't ignore any little thing he thought of. This was the best he could do in theory. If there were any problems, the issues would need to be discovered through experimentation. In other words, they had to find the problems through failure. Thinking of this, Wei Chen couldn't help but hesitate. "How about we give it a try?" Yi Shu said. "Let's try," Wei Chen also said. "You do it or I do it?" Yi Shu asked. F***ck, I'm doing it myself." Wei Chen ground his teeth. "Give me the materials." "Alright." Yi Shu prepared the materials needed. Upgrading Death's Hand to level 65 didn't completely require only uncommon materials. The rest could be found from the 2 million yuan worth of materials from Samsara. If there weren't any problems with a silver equipment blueprint, there wasn't much pressure. For example, for teams like Samsara or Excellent Era, if Cloud Piercer's Wildfire or One Autumn Leaf's Evil Annihilation broke, the respective teams could easily create another one in a matter of minutes. It was because there were no errors in their blueprint. The losses in material didn't need to be considered at all. After Yi Shu prepared the necessary materials, Wei Chen logged onto his windward formation. Death's Hand was in his inventory. He didn't dare to bring it with him for his spy account. Firstly, it was too eye-catching. Secondly, what if it dropped when he died? Even if his level 60 blueprint was perfect, he would still care about such a loss. Materials weren't easy to get, after all. The two met up in-game and completed the trade. On Wei Chen's side, Death's Hand and the materials were put into the equipment editor. Windward formation went to the arena, a safe zone, before opening it up. When he turned his head to look around, Yi Shu, Chen Guo, Tang Ru, Steamed Bun, and Chow Yifan had all gathered around him to watch. Everyone knew that this was an important matter. How could they not want to see the result? Ptui, Wei Chen spat in his hands and rubbed them around to pray for good luck. He clicked on Death's Hand and started to slowly disassemble it. Next, he needed to replace the old parts with the newly crafted parts and assemble it back together. Some of the parts could be directly formed through the equipment editor, while others needed to be handcrafted by Wei Chen. Yi Shu had seen his blueprint, so he knew of the details. Wei Chen noticed the differences between the materials used in the new one and the original and adjusted the parts accordingly. The new parts wouldn't have a mold already, so Wei Chen would need to create his own. He had to cut, slice, and grind away. The equipment editor was like a virtual lathe. Yi Shu hadn't used any of these functions yet for his 1000-chance umbrella, but he would need to sooner or later. When Su Mukyu designed the weapon, Glory's level cap was 50. Now it was level 70. The biggest change wasn't the level difference, but the new high-end realm, the heavenly domain. Starting from level 55, the materials from the heavenly domain dominated everything else. Even though normal servers also had level 55 to level 70 wild bosses, no less rare than those in the heavenly domain, those bosses weren't on the same level as those in the heavenly domain. It was like the difference between level 70 equipment from a normal server and one from the heavenly domain. How could silver equipment created from materials from the normal servers compare with one created from materials from the heavenly domain? Top-tier silver equipment required uncommon materials from the heavenly domain. Normal server uncommon materials could be used, but from level 55 onwards, they could only be considered inferior substitutes. Until level 50, silver equipment followed the same path, but the road afterwards was an entirely different matter. The materials from the heavenly domain were even more rare and complicated. The same mold couldn't continuously be used for heavenly domain materials. As a result, a lot of parts required slight adjustments according to the materials used. Wei Chen's blueprint for Death's Hand considered this aspect. Yi Shu's 1000-chance umbrella would face the same issue to continue and upgrade it. Yi Shu was currently in the middle of researching how to do it. It was impossible for Su Mukyu to leave any resources behind for him. When Su Mukyu passed away, the heavenly domain hadn't even existed yet. Chapter 724. Perfect Upgrade. Apart from Wei Chen, everyone else had left their computers. They stood behind Wei Chen, quietly watching. The practice room just looked like a room on the second floor that had been created by linking several private rooms together. In reality, Chen Guo had put a lot of effort into its renovation. The practice room was well soundproofed. After closing the door and the windows, practically no noise could be heard from outside. Surrounded by people watching him, Wei Chen carefully worked on his Death's Hand in silence. The first part was finished. Wei Chen wiped his forehead. He wasn't actually so nervous that there was sweat, but he wiped it subconsciously as a way to loosen up. Only then did he notice the people standing behind him. It could be seen just how focused he had been before. Not bad. You're off to a good start, Yi Shu praised, after Wei Chen completed one part of the weapon. Shut up. Who needs you to say that? I say you guys go and do whatever you were doing before. Don't watch, Wei Chen yelled. This is to give you an excuse if you make a mistake. When you mess up, you can say that it was because we're bothering you, Yi Shu said. Pa, can't you ever say anything nice? Hurry up and go outside to smoke or something. The air in this room is bad with you here, Wei Chen cursed. Yi Shu laughed, but he didn't go outside and smoke. He just told everyone to go back to their seats. Wei Chen didn't insist on getting Yi Shu to leave. After seeing everyone leave, he immediately began working on the next part. Even though everyone else returned to their seats, they would occasionally glance at Wei Chen from time to time. 4 parts. Yi Shu had looked at Wei Chen's blueprint for Death's Hand. The upgrade from level 60 to 65 had 4 parts, which all required materials from the heavenly domain. 3 level 65 materials and 1 level 60 material. Because he knew about the blueprint, when they split wild boss drops, he had naturally prioritized these materials. After Wei Chen finished one part, he would immediately work on the next part. Finally, Wei Chen wiped his forehead for the 4th time. Yi Shu knew that he must have been able to successfully complete all 4 parts. Wei Chen wasn't the type of person who wouldn't utter a peep if he were to fail. He was the type of person who would curse out loud for at least 5 minutes. You're done? Yi Shu asked. The crucial ones are done, Wei Chen nodded his head. The crucial ones were those 4 parts, which required heavenly domain materials. The rest of the materials weren't nearly as precious and didn't require him to handcraft them. He could simply use his original template and have the equipment editor craft it for him, so there was no pressure after he completed the important parts. Soon afterwards, the rest of the parts were created and now he just needed to reassemble the weapon again. He couldn't make any mistakes in this step, but it didn't require as much precision as creating those 4 parts. As a pro player with good microing, he shouldn't be making any mistakes on this step either way. As a result, under Yishu's lead, everyone went over to watch again. This time, Wei Chen didn't stop them. He shouldn't be making any mistakes in this step. The individual parts were quickly pieced together by Wei Chen. Done. After Wei Chen put the last part in place, he heaved a sigh of relief and clicked confirm. While the equipment editor saved the changes, the new form of Death's Hand appeared on the screen. It was a black magic staff around 1.3 meters tall. The tip of the staff was a skeleton hand with its palm open. As it revolved on the screen, it looked like it was about to grab something. The entire staff looked like 2 skeleton arms linked together. After the changes were saved, Wei Chen immediately closed the equipment editor and returned to the game. He clicked on Windward Formation's inventory and saw Death's Hand quietly sitting there. Wei Chen sucked in a breath of air and turned to look at Yishu. He had done thorough research on the blueprint beforehand, so he didn't think that the weapon would fail to form after putting the pieces together. Whether or not the weapon was finished would depend on the stats. If the stats were all around better than the stats at level 60, it would be considered a success. If only a portion of the stats increased, or if some of the stats changed, he would need to see which stats failed to increase, or which stats changed and figure out how to fix those problems. If the stats didn't change at all or even decreased, it would be a complete failure. The research teams of the clubs conducted research with a strong foundation of related knowledge. They would never create equipment by blindly testing their luck. As a result, they would never fail or create trash. It just depended on whether the piece of equipment had been upgraded to its maximum potential. If it did not, they would continuously adjust and test it until it did. Materials would rapidly be consumed in this process. Team Happy didn't have the resources to achieve perfect results yet. In truth, if Death's Hand only had a few flaws, it would still be used. They would perfect it in the future if their circumstances permitted it. How is it? Chen Guo was starting to get anxious. Wei Chen decisively exited the equipment editor and opened his character's inventory, but his mouse still hadn't clicked on the weapon yet. Chen Guo didn't know how to create her own equipment, but she would still know if it had failed or not. It wasn't like she had never tried to make her own before. Wei Chen finally clicked on Death's Hand and the stat window immediately appeared. Death's Hand, level 65. Weight, 3 kilograms. Durability, 30. Attack speed, 2. Physical attack, 591. Magic attack, 837. Intelligence plus 55. Darkness affinity plus 25. Darkness resistance plus 25. Critical strike chance plus 12%. Cast speed plus 12. Cast range plus 3. Success, Wei Chen roared. He slammed his fists on the table. The monitor trembled. All of the stats had increased. It was a huge success. The only numbers that didn't change were the ones for weight, durability, and attack speed. However, none of those affected a warlock's fighting ability. The upgrade wouldn't focus on those aspects at all. Everything else had improved and all of them reached Wei Chen's expectations. There were unexpected improvements too. At level 60, the cast range increase had only been plus 2. Originally, it shouldn't have increased until its level 70 form, but now, it had reached this step ahead of time. Wei Chen couldn't be any happier. F***CK. It's a success on the first try. On the first try, Wei Chen laughed. He looked so excited that he might try and grab the weapon from the screen to play with it. While everyone was excited, Chen Guo was somewhat disappointed. That's it? What else did you expect? Wei Chen asked. You're not going to give it a try and see if it won't break, Chen Guo said. Yishu laughed. That's indeed the case for the 1000-chance umbrella because some of the transformations might not have been successful. In that case, the 1000-chance umbrella wouldn't be complete yet, but for his staff, what else is there to see besides the stats? Oh, that's what you were talking about. You scared me to death. Wei Chen wiped away some sweat this time. Chen Guo's sudden words made him think that his Death's Hand might have some flaws that he hadn't noticed in his excitement. Then it really is a success. That's great. Chen Guo became excited too. I'll go find someone to test it out on. Wei Chen wanted to hurry and try out his new weapon. His windward formation just happened to be in the arena, so he clicked on 1v1 and automatically entered a room with an opponent. The two sides began fighting. Everyone was still there watching. They wanted to see the might of the newly upgraded silver weapon, but in reality, with Wei Chen's skill, he didn't need a silver weapon to beat a normal player. Even if his opponent had the silver weapon, he would still easily beat him into the ground. He was really just showing off. The poor opponent became Wei Chen's test dummy. He kited around utilizing the +3 cast range, got closer to show his 12% increase in cast speed, and checked the effects of the +2/5 to darkness affinity. Then, he checked his critical strike chance. Unfortunately, his opponent didn't have any darkness attribute skills, otherwise, Wei Chen would have let his windward formation take some damage to see the effects of the +2/5 to darkness resistance. Ha, another critical strike. Awesome. Haha, this señor's cast range is longer than you think, you weak chicken. Wei Chen chattered on excitedly. Yi Shu had gone back to his seat long ago. Yi Shu couldn't help but sigh, so shameless. You really are shameless. Although it's said that the heavenly domain had no noobs, all normal players were noobs to them. Wei Chen bullied his opponent happily with his silver weapon. Yi Shu couldn't watch any further. He was busy organizing the materials too. The noise from Wei Chen was headache-inducing. Can you quiet down? It's not like you've never used a silver weapon in your life. How disgraceful, Yi Shu couldn't help but say. One more time. It'll be my last one, okay? Wei Chen replied, while choosing another room. Ah, he's the same class as me. Hurry up and come watch me bully him. Wei Chen didn't find it shameful to bully a normal player. He was even proud of it and wanted others to share the joy with him. Yi Shu gave up and turned his head to ask Chao Yifan, Little Chao, how's that account? My account has practically never touched a quest before. Chao Yifan was excited. Yi Shu had given the skill point guide to him for 1-inch Ash to use. His 1-inch Ash had pretty much been power leveled by someone else. Power levelers seeked efficiency. When leeching off of a higher leveled account, it was much faster to kill monsters than run quests. It was very dull and repetitive though. That didn't matter for power levelers though. When killing monsters, the character would also get gold, materials, and equipment. For them, it was much more worth it than completing quests. As a result, Chao Yifan's 1-inch Ash was lucky to be power leveled most of the time. Nearly all of the quests in the skill point guide hadn't been cleared yet. Thus, with this guide on hand, his skill points soared. Chapter 725. Two bosses spawned simultaneously. Once Chao Yifan's 1-inch Ash entered the heavenly domain, power leveling became even faster. Speaking of which, in the heavenly domain, power leveling didn't really exist because players usually always beat the heavenly domain challenge at level 70. The only exception was when the level cap was raised. When Chao Yifan left Tiny Herb, he took his 1-inch Ash back from the power leveler. 1-inch Ash was now level 70 Ghostblade. Of course, the power leveler only cared about leveling. Clearing stat point and skill point quests required additional fees. Chao Yifan paid those fees, so his 1-inch Ash had the stats and skill points of an average character. So there's a guide like that. Chao Yifan couldn't help but be surprised, because he had come from a championship team. The things he had witnessed were on the higher end. Yet, even in Team Tiny Herb, their most powerful character, Baccaria, only had 4,855 skill points. It's just so. Chao Yifan even dared to use these words to describe the god-level character Baccaria. Because he could already predict that his little Ghostblade 1-inch Ash, which had been sent over by an invisible player to be power leveled, would certainly have over 4,900 skill points once he finished all of these quests. My 1-inch Ash will be better than Baccaria? It was just one aspect, but Chao Yifan had never imagined it could ever happen. However, it was about to right in front of his eyes. Chao Yifan couldn't control his excitement. Baccaria had always been a peak existence in Team Tiny Herb. To think he would be able to exceed it. Chao Yifan suddenly stopped the current quest at hand. The next part had fairly strict requirements. Chao Yifan didn't want to mess up. Yi Shu continued to organize the materials. At the same time, he also pondered over how he would continue upgrading the 1000 Chance umbrella. The foundation had already been established. The following steps required an even greater understanding of glory. Yi Shu had accumulated 8 more years of experience than Su Mukyu. For this work, even Su Mukyu wouldn't be able to do better than Yi Shu. For the level 55,000 chance umbrella, Yi Shu was currently planning on using 6 uncommon materials. It required even more resources than the level 65 Death's Hand, which only required 4 uncommon materials. Although uncommon materials were important, the choice of materials couldn't be ignored either. The end result depended on how well each part worked with each other. From this perspective, the importance of dungeon materials and uncommon materials was the same. However, dungeon materials were a lot easier to get, while uncommon materials were extremely difficult. As a result, uncommon materials seemed much more important. It was because of uncommon materials that kept silver equipment from flooding the market. How are things? Can the 1000 chance umbrella also be upgraded? Chen Guo saw Yi Shu looking through the 1000 chance umbrella's blueprints and went over to ask. I still want to take a closer look at the 1000 chance umbrella's blueprint, Yi Shu said. After all, he hadn't spent years researching his weapon like Wei Chen had. It had only been 7 months since he had left Excellent Era and started using Lord Grimm and the 1000 chance umbrella. He had constantly been thinking about how to upgrade the umbrella past level 50, but he had only started to take action starting from when he reached level 50. Yi Shu hoped things could turn out like Wei Chen's weapon, where the theory was bulletproof, but required actual implementation to discover any issues. Are there enough materials? Chen Guo asked. Normal materials aren't a problem. We're still lacking in uncommon materials though, Yi Shu said. The blueprint might not be finished, but Yi Shu would still take a look at what materials he might need when splitting loot dropped by wild bosses. The 6 materials required for the upgrade would all be level 55. These types of low-leveled bosses weren't valued as much by the top guilds, so the alliance's success rate would be a lot higher. Their alliance was formed midway through last week though, and they couldn't stay on 24/7. It was hard to avoid missing a wild boss that Yi Shu needed, and he really did miss one. Yi Shu really wanted this wild boss, and it still hadn't spawned yet this week. However, from the looks of how things were going, Tyranny's Zhang Jinji was very determined. He even showed up for level 55 wild boss fights. If their team's vice-captain personally took the lead, tyrannical ambition didn't dare to hold back. Did Tyranny urgently require materials for some sort of silver weapon? Yi Shu guessed. The morning passed. Yi Shu still hadn't received any messages from Lulan / or the other guild leaders. No news of any bosses spawning came that entire Tuesday morning. God, the 4 guild leaders said to him, not a single boss has showed up this entire morning. Shouldn't we all go to sleep now? And then when we wake up at night, we'll play while Zhang Jinji isn't on? Yi Shu was the one who had told them this plan, but he never said when they should start it. Weren't they still on right now? They had waited all morning, but no boss had spawned. They were still thinking about wild bosses, so they went over to ask Yi Shu. Don't be in such a hurry, you guys. Yi Shu didn't know whether to laugh or cry. It's only been a day. Zhang Jinji's been with us from start to finish, but who knows if he'll come today? Let's confirm it before calling it quits. After all, it's more convenient for us to work during the day, no? We have more people to work with during the day too. That's true. Quote. The guild leaders nodded their heads. Even though the guild had a bunch of players, who played as if it were their jobs, relying on these players all the time wasn't realistic. They often required the assistance of more players, especially for large-scale battles like wild boss hunts. They could look for these full-time like players, but it wasn't like these kinds of players covered every corner of the heavenly domain. In particular, when looking for bosses, they needed to rely on every player in the guild. The guild wasn't asking much. While you're playing, if you see a wild boss around or if there are any unusual movements from other guilds, just notify us. Thus, it was much easier if there were more people online. More people also meant more competition, but everything had their pros and cons. Then let's keep going into the afternoon, Radiance Whitestream suggested. Let's keep going, the others agreed. They had opened up a QQ group. It was convenient to talk about things there. In the game, they each had their own guilds, so it wasn't easy to get together in the same chat. Yi Shu often switched accounts too. In the afternoon, when everyone returned to the game, it was as if the wild bosses couldn't endure it anymore and suddenly spawned. 2 of them spawned too. Both Heavenly Justice and Parade received the news. Level 55 Wild Boss, Red Ribbon Janna. Level 65 Wild Boss, Green Magic Disciple Amofu. It wasn't impossible for 2 or even 3 bosses to spawn at the same time. If the 2 bosses were level 70, then it would be difficult for them to choose because both were of equal importance. The current situation was more welcome though. The level 55 boss didn't require any elite troops. The boss could be given to their other groups, while the elite groups competed for the higher level boss. Fighting 2 at once also saved time. However, the situation wasn't so good for the Alliance. They didn't have the strength to fight on 2 fronts. God Yi Chu couldn't be at 2 places simultaneously. Making a decision was easier though, choose the more important one. The 4 guild leaders prepared to head over, when Yi Shu suddenly said, "Let's go to Scarlet Cloud Taoist Rite." Scarlet Cloud Taoist Rite? The 4 guild leaders stopped for a second, when they heard the name because that was the name of the level 55 area. It was the location of Red Ribbon Janna. They were going to give up on the big fish and go for the smaller one? That's fine too. Conquering Clouds Yu Zikan felt like he understood Yi Shu's intentions and said, "We didn't really get any bosses yesterday, so we should start off the day well." He thought Yi Shu wanted to boost their morale, so he spoke up. Oh, the other 3 immediately understood. When Yi Shu said, "Everyone, let's work hard. Red Ribbon Janna has something I need." What? The 4 guild leaders felt dizzy. Was that the real reason why he was giving up on the level 65 magic disciple for the level 55 red ribbon? It was just because he needed something from it and not because of something deeper like boosting their morale? There was no point arguing at this point. The 4 guild leaders grabbed their troops and led their troops over to Scarlet Cloud Taoist Rite. Scarlet Cloud Taoist Rite was a Taoist location and an ostentatious little place. The symbol of a red cloud hung above the main entrance. In the middle, a black looked as if it were about to fly out like a dragon. Scarlet Cloud Taoist Rite was a level 55 leveling area. The dungeon, Scarlet Cloud Ancient Altar, ended the lives of who knew how many heroes. However, the level cap was now level 70. Scarlet Cloud Ancient Altar had long since become empty. The occasional players that came were here for the level 55 to 57 NPCs. The former most difficult boss, Red Ribbon Janna, was now a boss the big guilds were too lazy to send their elite groups to. A group of players passed underneath Scarlet Cloud Taoist Rite. Above their names was the guild tag, Blue Brook Guild. At the very front of the group were 2 blade masters. One was one of the famous 5 great experts of Blue Brook Guild, Blue Bridge Spring Snow. The other was someone that others wouldn't recognize. However, everyone in the group knew that he was a kid, who Team Blue Rain had told to come over. It seemed like he had just come out from Team Blue Rain's recent training camp. His name was Lu Hanwen. His character, Blade Master Flowing Clouds.